So it's 8 a.m., you arrive at the office, you arrive at your home office, you sit at your desk, open your laptop, maybe have a daily meeting, and 15 minutes later, it is time to go to work. It is time to pick up the feature. It is time to pick up the bug that you have assigned to you. It is time to manage something. So you've got something to build. And you look at it and you read it. So you read your feature, you read the bug, you read what you have to manage. It doesn't matter. And you know roughly what it needs to do, how it needs to behave. But there are maybe 3 or 4 ways to structure it, and each one of them has a catch that you can sort of see, but you can't quite name the catches. So this is the kind of decision you can go pick option A or option B or option C even, depending on a lot of things that you already might have in your mind. However, this is the kind of decision where if you pick the wrong option, then maybe only when you're almost finishing the implementation or when you're already halfway through it, that's when it hits you. Oh, I can't really do it this way. And then you have to start over. You have to undo everything. So how are we going to do it? You sit down. You don't write any code right away. You don't instantly execute. So here's today's episode. You're going to open the chat and you're going to talk your ideas through it. Here's what I need to build. Here's what I need. Here's the goal. Here are the ways that I could structure it. So here's option A, here's option B. Here's what I'm worried about, option A. Here's what I'm worried about on option B. So you're not going to open the chat and go like, I need to do this, now write me the code. No, you're going to be using it to think out loud with something that will be talking back to you. And this something might actually identify things that you're not seeing at the time. So let's imagine you did this, and half an hour later, you probably have a clear answer, or you already know which is the best path. And then it hits you even, oh my God, it's crazy because I thought about option A and option B, and then AI was just like, oh, you can do this. I mean, it's not option A or B, but it's option C. And look, we can go through this path and do this because, wow. And then it just hits you that you've been doing the right thing by thinking the right way, and at the same time, your AI still managed to give you another option that you didn't see at the time. So here's the line that I want you to think about throughout the rest of the episode. The most valuable thing AI does for me isn't writing the code. It's helping me figure out what to build before I write a single line. So let's get into it. So welcome to the second episode of Human in the Loop. On episode 1, we talked about how to get good output, how to give good input, how to brief, how to verify, how to iterate, and basically how to use AI to do things, how to use AI to execute. Today is a bit different. Today, we're going to talk about how we can use it to think. So it's a different muscle, it's different value, but honestly, it's a very different reason as well to keep AI around you and to keep AI in your workflow. So why does thinking matter more than doing? So here's the framing argument that I want to give you. Once again, episode 1, we talked about how AI is our intern and he is great for execution when we give him the whole plan. But there's always something before execution, which is how should I build this? Which approach is right? Am I going to waste 2 hours doing this now? And this is something that is barely talked about, which is everyone is always talking about prompts, everyone is always talking about code output, but almost nobody talks about AI in this way of thinking. So here's the thing. Bad code, you can fix it in an afternoon. But a bad direction, so a bad path, or something that you've decided wrong, it can cost you weeks of work, and it can cost you something, it can cost you refactors after a while. So if AI is going to help you with the highest stakes part of the work, it also has to help you before you even start doing things. So we're going to talk about 4 modes in which the AI model can help us. So the first mode is the sounding board. And this is the mode for when you have a problem, but you can't quite see the shape of the answer yet. And you're not just opening the chat and asking the AI to decide. That's the whole trick. You're using it to drag the options into the open, and then to understand what are the trade-offs that maybe you haven't even spotted yet, because AI is going to be really good at seeing these trade-offs. So let's go back to the idea that we have a feature to implement. We have something to build, and we have 3 or 4 ways to build it. 3 or 4 options. Option A, option B, option C, option D. Okay? Let's pretend you have 4 paths that you can do it if you were going to do it manually. So what you're going to do is you lay them all out. And by laying them all out, what I mean is you're going to open the chat with AI, you're going to write down your issue, you're going to describe your issue, you're going to describe your problem, what you have to build, and then you're already going to give it options. So instead of having AI tell you, yeah, you have to implement this, so I'm going to do this. No. You're going to give it options already because they're already in your mind. You already know what you have to implement. So you give it option A, for example. I can go through this API and implement this. I can maybe add this function over here. And then you also give it the worries. So my worry with this option is that I might need to refactor something over here, which might break some other feature. And you do this with every option that you already had in mind. So option A, option B, option C, doesn't matter how many options you have. Give it all out to the AI. Give it the whole thought process that you already have in your head for all of these options. And what the AI is going to do isn't handing you an answer. It's going to pick up these options and it's going to look at things in a way that maybe you haven't even seen yet. So it's going to look through option A and it might even give you quirks that you didn't even think, existed. It's going to tell you that it's impossible to do option B because you didn't actually think about, some other file that you really can't touch, for example. So this is what is going to help you come up with the decision. The decision doesn't really come from AI. It comes from you. It comes from the fact that you are reading what the AI is giving you back. Because the AI is going to analyze all the options that you gave him, and it's going to give you the pros and the cons of every single option. So it's still not the AI deciding. It is you deciding with quirks that the AI identified that you haven't noticed at the time of writing. So that's the point that I want to land. It's not that the AI is going to be the decision maker for you. It's not that AI is going to be really smart about things. No, because if you also don't list the quirks that you think about these options, then maybe you will not reason with them. So, maybe smarter models can actually go figure out stuff without you explaining it to them, how you want to approach the solution to your problem. But at the end of the day, AI can make you smarter. So we're using it in a way that you force the AI to think, you force the AI to reason, and then AI is going to force you to decide. It's going to force you to think about the things that it outputs to you. And you are the final decider. You, like we said on episode 1, you're the orchestrator. You're still ahead of everything. You're just using AI as a second brain. And we can talk about this with nothing that has to do with code. So for example, maybe you are weighing a career move, for example. Maybe you're thinking about the way that you want to do something in real life. But let's just assume the career move, right? And you don't just open the chat with AI and you ask it, should I take this job? No, you're going to give it something like, okay, so I currently work on company A and it pays me this, it pays me that. But, it is a long drive. I have to commute every day. I have to go to the office every day. And then you give it, I got an option B now. I have company B telling me that they pay me this and I don't actually have to work on site every day. I can work from home 3 days, for example. And that's basically the magic. It's that you're just listing the issues that you think are real. And then the AI is going to give you some output that helps you decide if you want to do this career change or not. So the decision always comes from you, no matter what the task is. So now let's move on to the next mode. So the next mode, I'm going to call it explainer/teacher. Because on this next mode is for when you already have some decisions to make, or the AI already gave you options. Maybe they're still the options that you gave him. Maybe there are new options. But these modes are all interlinked in a way. Okay, so this second mode, teacher mode. It's when you realize that you look at the options that the AI gave you, but you are not sure about what two of them are. So you look at them, you don't even understand the options. And if you don't understand the options, how can you pick the right one? You just can't. So that's the move. Here's the move. You don't just ask the AI what does he think is the best option. Because if you don't understand the option, then if it tells you that it's one of those, you're not going to understand what's going to happen. And that's really wrong. You know, when you're working with AI, you want to understand what's being done. It's really important that you do. So what you're going to do is use AI in this teacher mode, which is ask it to explain each one of the options. Ask it, hell, if you want a trick, I can give you a trick. You can ask it to explain to you as if you're a 10-year-old. Because this is a real thing. And I've done it countless times. Like, I've asked them to explain things to me in the most basic ways possible. Ask it to draw, I don't know, mermaid charts to you. Ask it to do UML diagrams, whatever. Ask it to explain to you so that you understand what you're picking. So that's the mode. Teacher mode, tutor mode, explainer mode. So this one reframing changes everything. The decision is always yours, like I said. So what you're doing here is borrowing the AI's knowledge to get to the decision faster, to help you make the decision, to help you make the correct decision. And like I said, I've done this with things that I work with. Like, I do this all the time, as a matter of fact. Because if I'm not sure about some of the options that the AI is giving me, I want him to explain to me why. Why should I go with option A? What does option B actually have? Because I don't understand what you're trying to explain to me here. So, ask him to go through things and explain stuff to you. And this works with code. This works outside of code as well. So, for example, maybe, I don't know, you're buying a place or something like that and you need help choosing between, some options, I don't know. And then you have AI reading the contract before you sign it. And why? Because when we look at the contract, a lot of the languages using in contracts is pretty much, okay, it can be English, it can be Portuguese, whatever. But most importantly, it's legalese. You know what I mean? It's written for lawyers and stuff like that, because it's that lingo that they use. And maybe you don't even understand it because it says, there's this article 1500 and something. And you look at it and you're like, I have no idea what this is. So that's where AI can actually help you as well. Just pick up something from that contract that you don't know and ask him to explain to you what that is. And this works for everything. Maybe you have to pick up a new washing machine, for example. And, I've done this. I literally use AI with my thought processes so that it helps me pick at the end. It's not that the AI that it is picking, it's that it's giving me the right options. It's explaining to me why is option A good, why is option B bad, or maybe if it's not about being good or bad, it tells me what are the pros and cons of each option. So at the end of the day, it's not choosing for you. It's you choosing with what it gives you, with the explanation that it gives you. So this is a very short mode, but it's the teacher mode. Now let's move on to another mode, which we're going to call Devil's Advocate, okay? And this one might be the mode that is most underused, in my opinion. And it's probably one of my favorites, actually, because here's the setup. So imagine you already made the call. You already picked one of the options. And maybe you're already halfway down the road. So then, I don't know, you turn to the AI and you ask it to argue against you. Okay? So what I mean is, let's reframe it again. You already have the option. Like, you didn't even ask AI to help you with options. You already have one. This is the one that I want to do. This is what I think should be changed. And this is when you open the chat with AI and you go like, give me reasons why I shouldn't do this. Argue with me. Make me questions, make me question myself. I am so decided that this is the right approach, but I want you, the AI, to tell me, why shouldn't I do this? What is wrong with my thinking? Ask it to be mean to you. You know what I mean? Like, ask it to be the devil's advocate. So don't just decide, or don't just ask, should I do this? No. You're going to ask it to give you, why shouldn't I do this? And even if it's the right way, it's going to tell you why it is the right way, but it might still give you quirks that you didn't think of. So that's the conversation that catches the confidence that you have. It catches your confident bad call, and it might actually save you a lot of time in the process, because maybe it's going to call out things that you didn't notice. So devil's advocate mode is probably one of my favorites. And, you know, like I said on episode 1, if you've heard it, AI is very confident in the things that it gives you, and it agrees with you a lot. So if you give him something, a lot of the times AI is going to be like, you're right, yeah, that's the way, that's the standard mode, you are correct. And you need to ask the AI to be meaner to you, to actually argue with you, to actually give you the things that you're not thinking about. So have AI be the devil's advocate. I know I'm repeating this a lot, but devil's advocate is such a good way to actually pick the right choices, to actually be hard on you, you know, ask it to be hard on you. Because AI by default is very soft. It agrees with you a lot. So ask it, literally ask it, give me a strong argument against this option, about this idea. And this works, but it only works if you actually ask it to do it. So don't let the softness of AI get to you. Ask it to be rough. You know, ask it to be rough with you. And this works for anything. This works for code. This works for anything outside of code. So if you're moving, if you're quitting your job, if you're committing to something big, tell it, ask it, be the devil's advocate and tell me why I shouldn't do this. Give me the bad things about it. You know, instead of asking him about the good things about it, ask him only about the bad things about that decision. So, you know, it's a very quick mode, but it's my favorite, the devil's advocate. And I repeated a lot of it, and I repeated this word a lot. I repeated this sentence a lot, which is devil's advocate, and I just did it again, because it really is my favorite one. It really is the one that makes you think. Because if it gives you just the negative things, you're going to look at them and you're going to think, okay, you know what? I didn't even think about this. So yeah, that's my favorite mode for a reason. And that brings us to the last mode now. And the last mode is called rubber duck. And you've probably heard about this, because rubber duck programming, or rubber duck debugging, which is how it used to be called, is a method that is used by software developers to find bugs in their code or to find solutions, you know? And basically rubber ducking, it involves explaining the code or the problem step by step out loud to a random object, like in this case a rubber duck. So programmers used to have things in their desk, or, you know, objects, which, once again, a rubber duck, to explain things out loud, because thinking out loud really helps you. And nowadays, you can use AI as the rubber duck. So maybe you don't know how to structure something yet, but you start thinking out loud to AI. You can even use voice mode with AI nowadays. So technically, you can literally do the same process that we used to do with rubber ducking, that we used to talk to the random objects. And when I talk about random objects, sometimes it can be a notepad. So, you know, I have my notepad always with me still. And I like to write down on it when I have ideas or when I need to think. But nowadays you can use AI for it. And I use AI for it. I actually switched, like if I look at my notepad, it's been a while since I wrote on it, because nowadays I just open the chat with AI and I use it as a rubber duck as well. So, you know, I already know what I want to do, but I want to explain the problem step by step. I want to think out loud. So I think out loud with the AI, because, you know, the rubber duck is just an object and it's just sitting there. And once you're talking with it, you used to, like, the idea is that something comes to your mind when you're thinking out loud. But nowadays you use AI for this, and it's pretty much the same thing, except it talks back to you. And maybe it gives you some useful things that you weren't thinking of. So once again, this is something that happens all the time with every programmer. And you've probably had this thing happen to you before. You know when you're stuck on something and you want to ask a coworker about this thing, and then you start typing in Teams chat or in Slack or whatever, and you're like, "Oh, I have this problem. Can you help me fix it?" Blah 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 blah. And then when you're writing, you send the message, and bam, just like that, it hits you that you actually know the solution. Rubber duck is pretty much the same. So you are explaining your things out loud because it really helps your brain when you start thinking about things out loud. And you do this with AI nowadays. So you're stuck and you start chatting with AI randomly. You don't even need to write a real prompt. No. Just use it as a chat. Use it as your friend, for example. It's going to maybe bring up things that might help you with the final decision or might help you with the prompt. It might help you polish the prompt for a future reuse. So that's pretty much it. That's the last mode that I wanted to give you. So we talked about the 4 modes. Once again, we talked about the sounding board. We talked about using it as a teacher or as an explainer mode. We talked about the devil's advocate, and we talked about rubber ducking. These are 4 ways that you can use AI not to execute, but to help you think. So before we actually wrap things up, here's the last topic. It is time to be honest about all of this. And it's time to ask the right questions. And you probably have some questions already, but I'm going to talk about 3 questions that can work as pushbacks, and it can help you actually decide if you want to work with these modes or not. So, first question, you could be asking me, isn't this just talking to yourself? And in a way, it is. It is you talking to yourself. But it is a lot better because you're getting output from it. You are not just talking to yourself anymore. If you do it right, if you ask your AI to reason with you, then it's going to ask you the questions. It's going to give you the answers that maybe you didn't even think of at the time. So yes, you are talking to yourself, but you're also talking to AI. And like our last mode, you are talking to a rubber duck that talks back to you. So the real risk here isn't that you're talking to yourself. It's that the AI is agreeable. So you also have to, nowadays, not only you're talking to yourself, you also have to argue with the fact that the AI is too agreeable and it might be leading you in the wrong direction. So this is where your intelligence comes into play. This is where the challenge is. Agreeing with what the AI gives you isn't always easy, and the AI is very confident, so you gotta use the different modes. That's why I gave you 4 of them, and that's why you can interlink them, like I said. You can just use the 4 modes and the same thought process. And you know what I mean by this. Like, maybe you start with the rubber duck mode because you don't know how to structure your idea yet. Then you go to the sounding board because you already have some options. And then from options, you jump into the teacher mode because maybe you don't understand some options there. And then from there, at the end of it, when you already know and you're almost ready to make the decision, you jump into devil's advocate mode. Like, tell me why I shouldn't do this decision. And this is how you basically, because once again, the final call is yours every single time, which means that if you have all of this thought process already advanced, that's when you know you're going to make the right decision. That's when you know you're at least not going to do the wrong decision. So, third question, and this one is also an interesting one. What about when it's confidently wrong about a decision? So, we talked about this on episode 1. He hallucinates a lot, right? And it's going to grab you facts that are not even true, but it's going to give them to you so confidently that you're going to be thinking that, okay, yeah, maybe this is true. And this is a little bit different here. So the AI can steer you in the right direction with absolutely total confidence, and it can give you some steering toward a direction or a decision that's wrong for your situation. It is wrong for your team. It is wrong for your rules, your constraints, whatever. And how much risk you can stomach, it really doesn't know any of that unless you tell it. So thinking mode leans on the brief even harder than the doing mode does, because it is the same rule from episode 1, but just turned up a lot more. And that's the true line for the whole episode. Using AI as a thinking partner is very real, but it takes a lot of discipline than using it to write code. Because when it's writing code, it's just, it's writing code. And like we said at the start of the episode, bad code you can fix in an afternoon. But bad thinking can go a long way. So using AI to decide is pretty much what we talked about on the episode 1 as well. You have to be careful with how much it hallucinates. You have to study the facts that it gives you. And I gave you 4 modes for you to actually use this to ensure that at the end of the day, you use the right thinking mode, you get the final say, and you pick the right decision for your problems. So let's wrap it up. I gave you 4 modes: sounding board, teacher mode, devil's advocate, rubber duck. And the funny thing is, you're probably already using these and you didn't even know about it, okay? Because most of you have definitely opened the chat with AI and already, put your thought process there. Maybe you didn't structure it that well, which means you were rubber ducking. So now you have a name for it. Maybe you already asked the AI a lot of times to explain function A to me. And that's when you're using it as a teacher, basically. And even though it's not, teaching you an option for a decision that you're going to make, it's still teaching you something. You're not using it to execute, you are using it to teach you. So you already used this mode a lot of times, probably. You probably already used it as a sounding board as well, and maybe even as a devil's advocate, because there are a lot of tricks that you can use with AI, a lot of ways that you can use AI, a lot of modes that you can use AI with to help you structure ideas, to help you find solutions. So yeah, basically, I want to leave you with a last question. And this last question is more of a thing that you were going to do on your own. So the question is, what is a decision that you are sitting on right now? And it doesn't matter if it's about work, if it's about a real life decision, if it's about something personal. What I want you to do is open a chat and ask the AI to help you think about it. Not give you a solution, to help you figure it on your own. Use the 4 modes that I gave you. Do it the way that it works for you. But yeah, that's pretty much it for episode number 2. Thanks a lot for listening, and I will see you next week.